Your egg head. Your head is shaped like an egg. You're frozen. You're in a bamboo forest with a wooden ceiling. Your last place had a wooden ceiling too. Very interesting. Cedar ceiling. Welcome to Classic Screenshots. I am your ever-loving co-host, Henry C.
And I'm your co-host, stable and alive and so blessed, QueenB.
Ching,
Cheers.
ching, ching,
Ching,
ching.
ching, baby.
The eagle has landed.
You know what? I've landed on my ass, but I stood up. I'm good. It was such a shit show. And I tell you, based on the movies that we were watching, all the fairies, I realized everybody's got a soul, and heck, just let things roll. Let me tell you.
That's right. Our cup of the week has a soul.
Yes.
So tell me about your week.
It was just here to there. My back. I'm reminded very harshly that I am not 19.
But you know what? You look it.
Why, thank you. We almost didn't get in because you were supposed to have apartment insurance the day of, and they won't let you in without it. And we were running around like monsters, and we found it, which is good. What else?
The saga continues.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Like I told you, I think on the backstory, I talked about, it sort of comes in with the movie that we're watching, dreams and life and what people do. And, my husband had this wonderful dream about this place, and it turned out exactly walked it out. I mean, we're still in amazement. We're kind of curious why the dream was so prominent to have this place, but we'll see. It'll all fold out. Everybody's got a soul.
Everybody got
the
soul,
goal, baby. That's the goal. And there's a lot of kids around here, so I get to use my art supplies. Wow. Tons of kids around here. I love it. A lot of easygoing, very good vibe. We managed to save everything. We didn't lose any food. We didn't lose anything. Nothing.
Amazing.
Not one thing was broken. Not a mirror. Not a glass. Nothing. And that's I think that's it sort of showed me the beauty that not everybody's out to fucking dig you and make bad things and bad choices.
Dig you with rave.
Yeah, some people are just like, there are some fucking assholes out there. I'm gonna say it straight up. Mr. QueenB Divine came out clean, and I ain't holding back shit no more.
That's right.
So, I have learned that there are some people who will never learn that the soul is what we need to hold on to. That's the only thing that'll go with you. And we need to build that up with kindness. It's the only currency it wants. So it's very interesting that some people just don't understand the currency. But thank God, and we elevate those who understand that soul is more than money. It's more than everything. So cheers to those who still know that the goodness of human kindness, even in tough times.
Kindness is the power in peace, my cousin.
Mm-hmm. This is an aside, but I gotta say something. Did you know that I'm straight up today.
Oh, here we go.
Did you know that whoever, I ain't gonna name names, but the landlords who inappropriately kicked us out, evicted us, paid in the assumption that we would never pick our stuff up?
What?
Yeah, and I even talked to the bailiff. He said that 90% of the people who get this situation don't pick their stuff up, and they're budgeted for the people not to pick up their stuff. And I was like, what?
And then what do they do? They sell everything off?
I think that's what they do. Like, if you don't show up in a couple of days, that's basically it's your livelihood. It's everything. And we thought about it, like, what could we keep? What is the soul of the shit that we need to keep? And it's surprisingly how much stuff you don't need.
Funny you should mention.
Oh, but yeah, it was, you learn what you truly, truly need. I watched a side movie. I know I cheated. Oh,
and you didn't tell me?
I know.
You didn't invite me?
I know. And anyway, there was a line in the movie. It was called The English. And there's a line with her name is Elizabeth Butler, I think her name is. Or Emily Butler, that's it. And she is stuck in the middle of nowhere. And she's with this native Aboriginal gentleman who's off to part with her. And she says, I've got so much stuff. What do I take? What do I take? And he goes, that defines how much your horse can carry. See, so what you need is what your horse can carry, right? So, it was a very symbolic moment. I'm like, okay, what can we fit on this horse, baby?
I think those moments happen when
something comes up that we completely resonate with, and it's a message that we are meant to hear in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm becoming the older I get, the more I start to realize that everything is precisely as it is meant to be. Otherwise, it would be otherwise.
I have to
It's up to us to be in tune with what's the lesson that I'm here to receive and what's the lesson I'm here to teach.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all teachers and we're all students. Every single one of us, including our friends, the trees and the animals and the buzz and bees and the cups of the week. Everything. It's all, and that's I think a good segue into this film, The Bluebird, which was an early American film, 1918. This is before Hollywood. This is when things were still being made in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is where this movie was made. Seriously.
There we go.
Fort Lee, New Jersey. A lot of the earliest film studios were there before Hollywood was ever more than an orange grove.
Right.
Sorry.
My nose was itchy.
And listen, the whole purpose of this, Buffs, is for you to watch these films so we don't have to go through and tell you the whole story, because that gets old real fast. We're not here to tell you the story. Go watch the story. Somebody told it. Go watch the art, because it is such an artistic achievement.
Bluebirds, nothing but bluebirds.
QueenB,
I love
tell us
it.
what the bluebird signifies for you.
The bluebird for me, because I'm so in love with that song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And it reminds me that every time I see a bluebird or the thought of the bluebird, it makes me feel joy. It makes me feel that happiness is on the way if it hasn't arrived yet. And if it hasn't arrived yet, I need to prepare like all birds do. They get their nests ready, get it all comfortable. You know what I'm talking about. So when I heard Bluebird, I was very excited to see this movie, because I happened to be in transition at the time in a motel called the Bluebird, which was so uncanny.
And I did not know that when I chose this movie for us to watch. I had no idea that you were staying in the Bluebird Motel.
That's funny. It's that's like you said earlier. Things just happen for a reason. I take that as a note that we are on that precipice of that deep felt joy, happiness. It does signify, not just for me, but as a microcosm, the bigger picture. We're all going through upheavals. Things are crashing, built it up, but the happiness is there. The bluebird is there for all of us to not only capture and not encage it, but have it in our window, so to speak, the eyes, right? Yes. Have it within our eyes, so the people, whoever sees it, can come to our window and go, I see your bluebird. I'm like, oh, I see yours.
Well, blue is the rarest color in nature.
Interesting.
It's a particular color it's a particular light spectrum that is the rarest in nature. And I think that's, for me, part of it. That's why the bluebird metaphorically is so elusive.
Yes.
Right? Because most birds are not blue.
Interesting.
Most birds are brown. Some birds are yellow or red, right? Canaries and cardinals. But most are not blue. So to find a bluebird is to and your blue cup. Look at that. See? And I'm wearing a blue
look at that, eh?
Sweatshirt. So yeah, so I think it's all about that elusive, or what we perceive to be elusive.
Right.
Because you know what? Even if it's in the spectrum, it's always in the spectrum.
Right.
It's always in the light. Blue is everywhere around us, and we fail to notice it. It's the entire sky.
It is.
And people forget to look up and ponder and wonder about that elusive blue that is actually covering everything. But it's up to our eye individually to notice it and to respond to it.
That that is
Right.
that I do love that. We have to make that choice to acknowledge the bluebird in our life. It's funny that you say too. Oh, it's also in the chakra world, blue signifies the throat chakra.
That's right.
To say speak your truth, to share your truth, right?
Yes.
And the bluebird, in order for you to be happy, you have to tell people what you want. You got to tell the universe what you want. You've
You
got
gotta
to
speak
speak
it.
it into existence, my brother. So
Yeah.
the blue I
Woo!
woo woo.
Woo,
So
woo, woo.
blue, that's gorgeous. That's
Thank you.
gorgeous.
I'll tell you that story sometime.
So when we think of bluebird, we don't at least I don't just think of the idea of unlimited potential happiness when I choose to speak my truth in its entirety. Happiness is there for all of us if we speak our truth. And I've learned on my journey that when we are quiet, silence is good. But it creates the space for deeper understanding. And this movie was a one of a silent movie. Did you love that segue, my brother? That was delicious.
That was another random segue by QueenB. I love it.
So yeah, this is the first time I watched a silent movie, and I really found it intriguing. I have to admit, and to the listening audience, the viewing audience, I'm going to tell you, and not Henry. At few times in the show, I wasn't really paying attention because I had to get my shit done. But I realized if you don't pay attention to a silent movie, you can miss important parts.
I tried to tell you.
It's just like life. Okay, you can listen now, Henry.
Because half of it is reading.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no, in a silent film, there's a lot of pantomime.
Right.
But you need those cards that have the lines or the dialogue or the narration or the description to draw you in.
Yes.
And give you the levels that you would get if you were hearing it.
Yes,
and what I love about
yes.
is that you get to hear the voice in your head. You get to hear what the character sounds like in your mind's ear, in your imagination. It takes you to a place that sound films and even color films. This movie is called The Blue Bird, and it's black and white. So you even have to imagine the blue.
You see, Henry, you bring up a very interesting point because TV takes away that extra that deliciousness from us now. The imagination is, it doesn't have a place to bloom. It's like it's being told, like, most people, if you're watching, most of the laughter you hear in shows are not real. They're laugh tracks. They don't even give you the space to imagine your own laughter and what's funny. They tell you what you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to laugh. And in this silent film, I love the fact that my mind, it felt like I was in control of the movie. I can imagine the color. I can imagine the voice,
You were the artist. You were part of the creative experience of this film that could not exist without the audience. Right?
Ain't that the truth, my brother?
And I love at the end of the film where they break the fourth wall. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
Where the actor turns and talks directly, looks right into the camera and says,
right. You know what I love about that? I thought breaking the fourth wall was a new thing in theater, but apparently, no, baby. 1918 got it down, and she looked right. Both of them looked right to the screen and said something that we should all remember. And it
was a Wizard of Oz moment.
Yes, a Wizard of. It was. Oh, you know what? That's another thing. We can jump in here. It had a very kinship for me personally to the Wizard of Oz. Some of the theatrics that we thought are so amazing today, like the CGIs that we do, all the extra animation, it was already there.
They had there. People don't realize the amazing.
They had the organic.
These were the mothers of invention.
Yes.
These were the people who invented the shit, and they were on set and they were making it happen.
Damn
and there
right.
are so many films.
Yeah, and we think in today's society when we see things, these things were back in the day, and I think that's what makes society sometimes so hard on itself. We forget that these things have already been here. There ain't nothing new on this earth. Ain't nothing new. And if we go back to the organic state of creating movies, like I love that silent movie and how the magic of appearing and disappearing was huge, huge, a big deal. And and since I felt like I was in
Lying.
control of it, it was magical. I was like, oh, whew, hey, you know what I mean? And here again, another a little piece, like you said earlier about the bluebird. I think I had the most fun looking at the birds and imagining the blue.
Right.
I thought it was so, because I have such a vivid imagine. Any blue, and it was very pretty, because it allowed me to really enjoy the art of imagination.
The art of imagination.
Yeah.
The art of
That's a QueenB
imagination.
divine thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's another ism.
Isms.
It is. The imagination is like a muscle, and if we don't use it, we lose it. And
You know what?
really
Very true. Very
important.
true.
It's really important, especially in the foundation years, but all throughout childhood, to keep the imagination alive, to keep it stoked. We don't do that anymore. You know what just occurred to me? Do you know the story of Pinocchio?
Yeah.
What color is the fairy?
Blue.
The blue fairy. The blue fairy.
The
Blue
fairy.
comes up all throughout. What we were saying before we were so egg-headedly interrupted was the importance of working the imagination muscle. And a lot of us in the TV generation, right? You think about 100 years ago when this movie was made. This movie was made over 100 years ago. Think of the story of Snow White. They all slept for 100 years, right? And we all thought that was eternity. But this movie that we can still watch today, all the people who are in it, every single one and every one of those damn birds is dead.
Is dead.
Well, we're eternal beings. We are all eternal.
That segues into the part about the soul, how it really brings up all these little pieces: bread, water, everything's got soul.
Everything got soul. Everything got life.
Yeah,
well, listen, think about this. My cousin, who is an indigenous chief of the Pembina Chippewa,
right,
just did a lecture online, and it was really beautiful how he was talking about honoring women. It reminded me of this movie, and for two reasons. One, he was talking about how women are the portal through which every human being passes into this world and must be cherished. Women must be cherished. Even the ones that are not right, even the ones that are, making choices, whatever, that we may not want to hang out with. We should cherish and honor the process and the being of women as powerful and sacred, because the women will eat the food that comes from the earth, the animals and the plants that come from this earth. They will drink the water that come from the earth. And every cell in your body is comprised of water and the proteins and the minerals that come from the earth. We are walking earth. We are walking water. We are the bread. We are the fire that cooked the food. We are the fire that warmed the mother as she was protecting her body against the cold to house that child for 9 months, right? We are the milk. We are the water. We are all those things, the sugar. We are the sugar because it's in there too, the glucose, right?
Yes, it is.
Those are all aspects of humanity. And so by anthropomorphizing these things around us, these inanimate objects, even light, right? We are anthropomorphizing them, meaning making them into a humanistic type figure, the dog, the cat, all of them, because they are reflections of our humanity, and we are connected. We are all connected. We're connected to nature. My cousin said, nature needs a Bill of Rights.
Mhm.
That hit me like a ton of bricks. And that's, I think, what this film also talks about is the harmony that we live in with the world around us, whether it is nature herself, whether it is the glorification of women. There's that whole scene about, remember in The Joys, the luxuries, right?
Yeah, luxuries
There's
of
the
love.
luxury of the money, and there's the luxury of overeating, and the luxury of over drinking and over partying and all that, and you know, too much money and too much sleep even. But then there are the luxuries of the things that are naturally ours, like fresh air,
Right.
right, and sunshine, and walking through the forest of trees. And then what was the last one? It was motherhood, the joy of the love of motherhood, not only being a mother,
Yeah.
loving her children, but also, I know it's a but also being a child, the
Right.
feeling of being loved by your mother. And it doesn't have to be your birth mother.
I
It
feel
could be
you.
your
I
own
feel you.
self mothering your inner
Yes, I
child.
understand that. I understand that. I do. I
I
do.
know. I didn't want to take it there, but take it there.
You
I know
know,
you want to take
I
it there.
have to say that there is a deep cringe in me when I say, you know, when they say the joy, the mother's love, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel you. You know, I'm being straight with the audience, and a lot of people who are in the mental health field, the Ascension 5D, affirmation world, say, oh, your mother loved you. I sure she did, but on Earth, when I was a child, she did not love me.
No.
So,
Bless her heart.
yeah, bless her heart. But I think in that space where I didn't feel mother's love, I had to create my own mother love for myself.
Thank you.
Let me
Thank
thank
you.
you. Look at you waiting for the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's where I was that's where I was absolutely leading, because we do
Yeah, I
have,
see, and I felt that, and it like you said, there are so many ways to be a mother, and because I didn't feel that as a child, looking for love in all the
all
wrong
the wrong
places.
places. I love that. You could be a motherfucker too. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
you a motherfucker.
But
And
you know who
before
loves
I
us
found mother,
unconditionally? You know what mother loves us unconditionally is our Mother Earth, our
yeah,
Mother Nature.
Mother Earth. You know, and if when we take it to that ascension, Mother Earth has been beautiful to me. Very the connection, like you said, the trees, the earth, the water, these are my mother. This is my family. For when I call for shelter, I see the world move towards me. When I call for love, I see the world, the space that's created so I can see this love.
Right.
When I'm looking for happiness, I can see the universe placing the bluebird in my vision so I can think clearly. So, you know, for all those people who might cringe at the same space that I did, mother's love, what the fuck does that mean?
That's right.
Um, just look deeper into it, as Henry was saying, my lovely co-host. That motherhood doesn't mean necessarily, you know, pushing a child out of you. Yes, it does, but it also means connected to the earth and allowing and feeling the earth love for you.
That's right. Well, and my tattoos tell a story.
Ooh,
This is my divine masculine
right,
symbol, and this is my divine feminine symbol. And so what this represents for me, these are the most ancient symbols in humanity.
right,
And what it represents to me is that we, all of us, within our DNA, within our very cell structure, we have both the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We have the capacity to father, and we have the capacity to mother, for whatever that means to you.
right.
Now, convention will say that mothering is that nurturing
Excuse me.
force,
Right.
right? And the masculine is the strength. But you know what? I think when I think strength, I think women.
Yeah, I have to say,
I think feminine.
I have to agree because this weekend, segue.
Anyway, that's your third one already.
Love
I
it.
got a lot of segues, baby.
That's in the first half hour. Not even.
Strength of a woman. Let me tell you. I'm going to shout out a bunch of kudos to those who do moving as a job. Oh my fuck! Like who? Like so, we didn't have the luxury of packing it. Yay!
That's right. That's right. It's like Christmas all over again. You don't know what's in what box.
We didn't have the luxury of going up 12 flights of stairs. Yeah, 3 couches, tables, chests, and it was just me and my husband. And let me tell you, I mean, I did learn to work smarter, not harder, by using leverage in certain areas.
Yes.
But it reminded me that I was not 19, moving out on my own for the first time. And also, don't you laugh at me.
I think you mean 12 stairs, not 12 flights of stairs, because that's
12
like
steps,
a
12 steps, 12 steps. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, that's significant.
It's different. Yes, that's fucking crazy. 12 steps, I wouldn't be here. I'm still on the first
12 stories, they should have an elevator. Thank you.
But my point is, strength of a woman. My husband was very impressed. How strong I was, and and I didn't complain because it had to be done. And it's like Mother Earth. Things need to be done. And that's just the way it is. And once I was done, I could relax under the bluebird of thought. I know. So
the bluebird of thought.
So you know what? I think another thing that pulls out of me, you don't know how strong you are until you have to be. For me, right. I didn't realize. I was like, yeah, man, I don't know if I can do this. Because I saw the storage unit. I was like, God damn.
We have a lot of stuff.
We have a lot of shit. And then just play. And you realize what you don't need. You're like, I don't need that. Just leave it. I'm good. No, not picking that shit up. But I learned about my resilience and how strong my bones are. And if you hold your hand in a holding fist position for too long, it cramps up.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it
Lord
does.
Jesus, the pain. But it was good pain. My gorgeous co-host Henry C said, I told him I was sore, and he said, it's a good sore. Just make sure you get a bath, a nice soothing bath. And I did. I used some magnesium flakes, sat down and basically cried.
Oh, that magnesium flakes. That'll take you to the bluebird of happiness right there. Yes.
I basically cried, but I sat in the tub and I burned a spliff. I'm sorry. Got to tell you how it is.
Don't gotta apologize. Sorry, not sorry.
I just burned a spliff. Enjoyed the warmness, listened to my dog pitter patter up the new hallways, and my husband put shit up, and I said, this is my bluebird right
here. Now that spliff has a soul too.
Heck yeah.
Did you see that soul? Did you see the soul of the spliff?
Yes. I was sitting in there, and as I was taking it, I saw the smoke came up, and it was like, motherfucker, we got you.
We got you. Well, somebody was smoking a spliff before they made this movie, because
yes,
it is like you're tripping.
Yeah,
like from the beginning to the end, from the first time you see that old crotchety neighbor with the sick kid across the street.
Yes.
It's this hunchback woman with this. You remember the movie Alien and the shape of the alien's head? That was her hat. And you wonder if her head was shaped like that under that hat. And then she shows up later as the fairy, Berylune, wearing these fly John Lennon sunglasses at night.
Yes.
And she had a grill.
Yeah, she had.
You couldn't see it, but she was like, and she said, I know I look like your neighbor, but I'm not. I'm a fairy. And then she turns into this beautiful fairy.
Right.
And starts working all this magic to convince the kids that the magic is real. And she's like, you got a job to do. That little sick girl across the street needs a bluebird right now, and you got to go find it. And we're going to bring all this shit to life around you, and they're going to go with you, but then they're going to die at the end, okay?
You see,
is everybody okay with that? Is everybody all right with that? And Brett's like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Let me cut my titty off and feed it to the children.
It's insane.
And sugar with its own head. Yeah.
I found it, as I said, like you were saying, like there was so much going on because, like I said, it stirred the imagination. Your imagination was going here, creating color, creating laughter, creating joy in this whole thing. And yet it had this beautiful, deep meaning. And for me, to really be reminded that everything has a soul it teaches you about the tool or the principle of kindness. Like I remember back in the day, when we were staying with these really interesting people on a horse farm, or they had horses, very very blessed, and we were sitting there, and this woman was cultivating seeds. Like, so she would have she'd grow her tomatoes and cultivate the seeds, and I had to help her. And as I was taking up the seeds, I was like, she's like, easy, they're seeds.
They're babies.
Be kind, be gentle. And I never thought about it that way. I was like, oh, goddamn, you're right. So every time I see a seed, I do my best to be gentle with that, because its soul is still in this infantile stage. And it reminds me of the compassion we should show, not only for each other, but for Mother Earth and all the things she brings. It really reminds, I was so fascinated. And I think I said this to you, that I know the idea of soul has been around. My great grandmother, my grandmother, my mama taught her, and they taught me. But I was so surprised that it was in a movie, 1980, and I was so surprised that beautiful imagery didn't get trickled down to the rest of the, what happened? Did we get constipated in truth? It's just like, where is this? This should be the essence of everything we do. And this beautiful story, like you said, I don't know if they were smoking weed when they did it, or they were in some really magical place, but how did that magic get lost in art and theater and creation? Very few people create with the beauty of soul anymore. It's just the idea of just, let's make money. But there's a soul to that. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a really important frequency right now that we need to be talking about. And that's one of the reasons that we've started this channel, is to talk about how these classic films, all the way back to the fucking beginning, 1918 was way early in cinema history.
Right.
And these are the foundations of our culture. They provide a window into what was and what still is, that we still have access to. We haven't evolved. Hello. We haven't evolved in 10,000 years. We haven't evolved. I mean, we're still the same.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're always looking for the wonder. We're always looking for the magic. My theater company, called the Luminos Project, is all about dancing across the threshold between the human physical and the human spiritual relationship and experience, right? We are dual beings. We live physically and we live spiritually. And it's up to us to cultivate our capacity to see the unseen, the unseen forces around us, meaning everything from what forces are making us grow as a plant grows, what forces are cultivating those seeds in our ovaries, the way every fruit is an ovary. Every fruit is an ovary that houses the seeds for the future of that plant, right? We are reflected all, and to cultivate the capacity to see the unseen spectrum, the color blue, right? The color purple, right? All of these beautiful things in the spectrum that we don't notice. Blue and purple. You're blue and purple today, right? We have these capacities. We've always had these capacities. And we need to look to our indigenous brothers and sisters for the way forward, because they still practice. They still are telling the stories. What we're doing.
And just to open that box up, not just indigenous people around the world, whether it be on the continent of Africa, Canada, everywhere. There are so many people, tribes that it's amazing that with society, we have a whole bunch, a shitload of National Geographic magazines that we've collected. And even in these books, they state there are new tribes that don't even know what anything that we're doing. Isn't it amazing? It just makes you go, what? So the point is, there are a lot of tribes who are still practicing at the very rudimentary level of living. right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing. And even if you go to even parts of Jamaica, there are Rastafarians living in the mountains who
Right.
refuse to partake in societal
Right.
ills. They no, I ain't having it,
Yeah.
and they'll tell you, no, no,
A
no.
lot of people are going off grid, checking
That's our goal.
out.
That's our goal. That's
But
our
you
goal.
know, at the same time, we also have developed magnificent tools in our time to reach one another. You and I would not know one another if we were both living in the woods.
No, probably
That's the
not.
truth.
No, it's true. It's true.
You know, we found each other through technology, and our audience, our buffs, are finding us through technology. There are ways to use it. It's how you use the tool. You
Right.
could you could be an Aboriginal picking up a rock to crack a nut, or you could use that same rock to kill somebody.
Isn't
Right?
that the essence of who we are? Like when we look
How
at
you
each other,
use the tools,
how you use it.
the intention behind that, and that even goes down to words
Right.
that
The
you speak.
intention behind them. Yes.
The language that is used in this film is so poetic and beautiful, and it's almost like a spell in itself when people speak to each other, or the narration at the beginning, you know, the introduction. All of it is so beautiful. And the way that the calligraphy,
Right.
you know, like the G or the Y,
Yes.
informs the rhythm of the speech that you're only able to hear in your imagination.
Your
You're
voice.
reading it
Yeah.
on the screen,
Right.
right? The same way with my theater, that we're doing audio theater
Right.
plays, and we're focusing on folk and fairy tales to bring back some of those ancient stories of magic, not Harry Potter magic. Nothing against Harry Potter. I love the Harry
No.
Potter magic. I love the CGI. I love all that stuff. But to get back to the human magic,
Natural
and
magic.
natural magic.
Yeah,
Exactly.
natural magic.
Exactly.
That's something that
And to
I
use the
found.
imagination.
Yeah, the imagination. You know, and it was something that in the transition that I went through, it was counted the 15 days of motel to motel.
That was
Every
15
time.
days?
15
Wow.
motherfucking days. I can say, hey, let me put a shout out there. Motel life sucks.
It
It is.
sucks. People on the road, props to you. People say it, traveling salespeople.
You know what it is? It's because the energy is always transit. It's always transient. It's moving. It's moving. So there's no stability in that motel lot vibe. So you're always moving, and in that movement is important, because I met a lot of people in that movement who needed a bit of understanding, who didn't want to hear my problems but wanted to share theirs, and I'm there for them because I get it, because I'm strong. I was strong enough. I'm like, well, I've been chosen to be here, so I'll listen to you. What do you got? Spill your guts.
Feel it.
And a lot of people were looking for that bluebird of happiness. They were looking, where are we going to end up? Where are we going to be? What is happiness? And I know it ain't in no motel. I can tell you that much.
Well, listen, what are the different phases they go through? They start out in their little modest hut, right? They have nothing. There's simple life. And the children are looking out the window at the house of the rich people. Right? And they're partying, and they've got beautiful clothes, and it's all done in silhouette, like shadow puppets. Really cool. It's like a combination of silhouette cutouts and live action, but all in shadow and light. Really magical. And there's that pull to what is something other than their experience. Remember the little girl, she's pretending like she's eating the cookies and the cakes and everything. And then here this fairy shows up and takes them all out of their normal.
Yeah.
To look for the bluebird of happiness. And it's all a lesson, right? So the first place they go is to the palace of the Queen of the Night.
Yeah.
All the mysteries, all the dark aspects of humanity, ghosts and darkness and sickness, right? Virus. That was really poignant with COVID and everything, the whole virus thing. And then and they're looking for it there, that the fear factor. So many people are drawn to horror movies, and you remember that TV show Fear Factor, where people
Oh
were
my
eating
gosh,
bugs
yes.
and
Amazing.
piss and shit and all that, right? Right? We are drawn to the fear factor, and that's what the
Right.
Queen of the Night represents. So
Yeah.
does the bluebird of happiness live? Remember, they find the bluebirds. They find the room that has
They
all the
find them.
bluebirds, and they grab them by the armfuls,
But
and
then
they're like, "Look, we got all the bluebirds," and then they're dead.
Yeah, and
The
you're like, oh,
the birds
okay.
are all dead, and they're like, "Holy fucking shit!
Yeah,
That was an
totally sick.
illusion. That
Right.
was an. We can't take these bluebirds with us through our lives. It's a moment that we can find excitement in,
Right.
but that's not something you carry with you throughout your life. You don't carry the horrors and the fears throughout your life. You don't carry death with you throughout your life.
You
Right?
shouldn't. How's that? You shouldn't.
I don't believe in shoulds and shouldn'ts. I don't think
Well,
we
it's because
do.
I've seen a lot of people carry that. They carry it throughout
They
their
try
entire
to.
life.
They try to, but are they happy? And that's the
Well,
point.
yeah, exactly. But exactly,
That's
because I
the
was just
point.
opening the space up because a lot of people are like,
Yes.
I'm always sad. Yes, that means you don't have the bluebird of happiness in you. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're
It
holding
doesn't
on,
mean
and I've
that you
been there.
can't like that stuff. It doesn't mean
No,
that
no,
you
no,
can't like
exactly.
those things and care and have those, those thrills.
I think it also highlights the bluebird happiness takes a lot of work from within for you to see it. You can't just assume it's gonna fly by and you're like, okay, here's my cage, chill out.
I'm
For
gonna
me,
catch it, and
yeah,
then
exactly. It doesn't
yeah.
work that way. It doesn't work
So
that
then
way.
where do
So
they go? They go into the past. They go to the graveyard, right?
great. Is that
And
the
they go.
grandmother part when they see the
That's the
grandparents?
grandparents, and the
Yeah,
grandparents are sitting in front of their cottage, and they're leaning on each other. They're asleep, and they wake up, and they're like, "Oh, somebody must be thinking of us,"
right.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they go into. I love how the cottage just sort of magically parts open
Yes.
and reveals the inside of the cottage, and it's all cozy and warm, and the table's laid out, and
And they're
grandmother's
a
all
kid,
the
and they
delicious
meet their
cooking.
siblings that were there that could have
They're
that
dead.
died
They're
during
dead
the pandemic.
siblings.
Yeah, that died
They're
through
dead.
the sickness. They meet
The
all of these
fever.
people. Yep.
It was probably the Spanish flu, which a lot of people were considering
Probably.
right? But there were all these. There must have been a dozen
But a
dead
little
siblings.
aside though, that woman was busy. God damn it, there were a lot of goddamn kids there. Gee.
There are a lot of kids, but you know what? The kids are coming down from upstairs where they were probably asleep too. And then when they find the bluebird is there,
Right.
right? It's there with
Right.
their grandparent. And they say, "Can we take it?" And sorry, we can't stay for dinner, but we have to go. We have to take the bluebird. They take it, and the bluebird is black. It's not, and black is beautiful,
Damn
but
right.
it's not blue, right? And then what happens when they leave and they get distracted? The grandparents fall asleep, the house closes,
Right.
the grandparents fall asleep again.
Yes.
And I love that metaphor about memory of those we've loved and lost, that they
Yeah,
are
maybe it
always with
really.
us and they come alive when we think about them.
Yeah, I thought about that too. I mean, and it really drives to purpose of what your purpose here is on life. How do you want to be remembered in the thoughts of those who will be responsible or at least capable of bringing your memory alive at any given moment, bringing you alive through memory, and that's in that plays to the part that that's why be very conscious when we live our lives on purpose. So when the stories are told of Henry C and Queen B, you know what
They're
I
going to
mean?
sing
They
songs
continue
about
to, you know what I mean? They continue, and one day, right now we can imagine Henry C, Queen B, someone watching this video 100 years from now,
That's right.
and we're giggling.
Well,
And
and
that's
that
beautiful.
brings me to the C part of our name,
Right.
right? The C is for Cameron, my
There you
son,
go.
right?
Right.
And I've met so many other parents of child loss who get lost in their grief, and they're in a perpetual state of mourning.
Right.
And that is like a sleep. It is like it's like a living death.
Right.
And I believe that there's a difference between mourning and grief. There's a passage that you go through of mourning when someone beloved passes away.
Mhm.
And there's no law that says how long a period of mourning is or should be.
Nope.
But when you cross the threshold from mourning into grief, that is when you can channel your grief into good things. You can channel your grief as fuel for your life. That's a really
Yeah.
important thing.
Yeah.
And so what that scene, particularly for me, and seeing all these dead children, the spirits of these dead children,
Right.
right, was so resonant for me, is that whether you've lost a parent, a grandparent, or a child, they are still alive within you. And all
You know,
you have to do is, I still remember Cameron's belly laugh. I watched this movie with him.
right.
Right? So he was sitting with me watching that movie, and
Right.
especially in that scene, that was so beautiful, and it was another Wizard of Oz moment. Do you remember what the wizard
Yes.
says to the Tin Man?
Yes. Well, even
That
the
part.
but before even moving into all that, but and, a lot of people say, how can we capture the memories of people? Always, ancestors. It's always best to, connect to your ancestors. You're what they've been waiting for.
Right.
You are their hard work, their challenges, their tears, all those things have come into you. And we can hold that memory by holding a moment, lighting a candle,
That's right.
whatever it is that brings those people to you. Because like Henry C said, there are a lot of people who passed. There are so many people who passed on, and they've left a wealth of knowledge within Mother Earth. And all we have to do is really connect to that. So, like he said, whether you've lost a son, grandparents, siblings, anybody,
Yeah.
hold them in your heart. And what I do in honor to remember not only my mom, my father, or my sister, because those are the people that I know in this time that have passed. I just think of the good stuff and all the good
That's
stuff that my sister taught me, even because she died of sickle cell anemia. And
mm,
in her space of she was here, she lived a life. Like it was amazing to see. I'm living a full life. I'm like, girl, how'd you do it in that short span? And you did it all. So their souls live and give us continual education to move forward.
yeah.
So just remember that, any one of you are capable of connecting to that beauty and that magic, that bluebird, so to speak, the soul of
Anytime.
who we are. Anytime.
And you cannot carry it through your life. You cannot live there and carry the bluebird
No.
will exist in those moments
Right.
of memory, but it
Right.
cannot come with you. That's the
No.
beautiful point of that scene. And
Yeah.
what I was going to say about the Wizard of Oz is that the wizard says to the Tin Man that a heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others.
Yeah, isn't that
That's one of the most poignant things ever written. It's hard to know. I mean, there were so many parallels between the Bluebird and the Wizard of Oz, right?
so
The
much?
Wizard of Oz was written in 1900, and the
Ooh,
Bluebird was written, I think, in 1911,
okay.
right? So they
Right.
were around the same time, but the Wizard of Oz came first. And Maurice Maeterlinck, who is a Belgian writer, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1911. I don't know if it was for the Bluebird, but it was for his body of work. He was extremely well known, superstar author and playwright in the early part of the 20th century, late 19th century in Europe. And so one wonders, again, as we talk about frequency of our time, the things
Right.
that we're talking about today, a lot of people are picking up on. I wonder if it was the same thing 100 years ago, where there was a consciousness shift the way there is now,
Yes.
where people were telling a similar story. It was a journey, just like Dorothy through Oz. These children are on a search to find happiness, and they find it in the same place too, right? So what comes after the graveyard is the luxuries, the house,
Luxury. Let me
joy and
tell you,
luxury,
the luxury to be in a bed
cast of
that
thousands.
bed that is all yours with your own pillow and shit. Luxury. Luxury to eat when you ain't hungry. Luxury.
Luxury to drink when you ain't thirsty.
Luxury.
Luxury to party. That was a party. That was a party.
It puts things into focus because when they were going through the luxuries, I'm like, God damn, you're right. That's a luxury. Even going again through my situation, you realize the luxuries, what you really need, and what's a luxury. What is a luxury in all this transition and trying to find your way and find your rooting? You realize that the love of a person or that it's necessary. But for me, that's luxurious because I could have been going through all alone. I could have been
That's right.
going through all by myself.
Friendship.
The luxury of having my pet companion with us. Luxury.
Right. And he keeps bringing all his toys.
Luxury of going. Hey, how you doing? Luxury of getting clean clothes on demand. Go to the washing machine, stick it in, put some quarters in, blase, tell your story.
Story.
Yeah, you forget that these are luxuries until they're taken away from you. You're like, God damn, I see what's going on. And it's not to say that I never
one of us that
experienced
has
it.
sat in front of a television eating Doritos,
Right,
when we are not hungry and
it's a
we're
luxury.
not eating something that is healthy for our body, it's crap. It's crap. It's crap upon crap, right? We're poisoning our bodies, eating when we're not hungry, drinking when we're not thirsty. I love that you had that moment because I always have that reminder with that scene,
Right.
that you notice the obesity epidemic globally.
You do.
And that is an expression of the luxury of eating when you're not hungry and drinking when you're not thirsty.
That's a luxury.
I'm not saying that everybody is like that.
No.
Disclaimer moment.
No,
there are fat people who are healthy. There are fat people who are healthy and that have other physical challenges that cause bloating and weight gain. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who have 100% control and are indulging in the luxury of eating when you're not hungry.
Yeah, and it is, as I said, all of who are listening right now. So I really suggest you watch this movie. It really brings home the essence of the foundation of who we are. It really does. Some things, it's easy to live in such a luxurious society.
Man, are we spoiled?
We're very spoiled. The luxury of going and making, picking up bread. Back in the day, they made bread, they made butter. You had to make everything to make something.
You had to go and chop down your own wheat. You had to grow your own wheat, plant your own wheat, chop it down. It was like the little red hen story.
Yeah,
who's going to help me
do
plant
everything.
my wheat, my grain?
You had to cut down your trees to make your home. You had to do this. You had to build everything. And now we're in a luxury society. And something that I saw the other day, I think I was watching a Twilight Zone. I know, again, and not going to get into the scene, but he did say something, because the idea was that automation was taking away humans, their ability to work, AI. And he said, look at these hands. They have become obsolete. And I said, Jesus, you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing to ourselves when we're doing that? But the point is, Bluebird does bring up these things to try to gently bring you back to that childhood imagination. And perhaps that can spark the revolution to finally let's get back to these things. Let's say no to things that are not good for us. And the childlike space that they have in that movie is just, these children go through a wonder of world and they come back full circle to see, oh, I get it. Oh, I see now. And I don't want to give it away,
I think about when I watch these old films, especially the silent ones that were made for children.
Right.
That young children watching this film in 1918 who couldn't read yet, their parents or grandparents were sitting next to them and they were whispering what the words said. So that's a frequency,
about that aspect.
Right? There's a frequency there that it's coming through the ears of the storyteller, who is the audience, right? and leaning in. You know, when you have a child sitting next to you and all the acoustics are right in your armpit, right? And you can speak, but how many people sitting in the theater, and these were huge movie palaces, right?
Right.
Sitting in the theater, how many people were whispering to their little children what those words were, right? How beautiful. How beautiful. We don't do that anymore.
No,
We
we
don't
we
tell our
don't do
stories
this.
anymore.
This movie is all about the memory of the Bluebird and bringing it forward into our now as we wrap out. I sometimes I'm so amazed how quick an hour goes. But my last sentiment for this to say is that there are many times I caught myself looking for the Bluebird in my past and trying to bring it, and it always died. Always died. There are many times I tried to pull the Bluebird from the future, and
That's
it
right.
always died. The only time I can keep the Bluebird alive is each and every moment, each and every morning I wake up and I call it to the windows of my eyes. And I say, okay, what do you want me to see today? And it just teaches me to live in the moment because I want to see that bird fly. I'm not interested in seeing it dying anymore. And it's a lesson for me to, especially what I was gone through. And I'm not saying I'm special because there's so many people who have not been lucky enough to have people to help them. And
Right.
it's emotional for me because
Yeah.
even though my husband and I and our dog landed on our feet, there are so many people who are laying on their back.
That's
And
right.
I ask you to keep that Bluebird of hope for them because it's very emotional, not able to help everybody. So all I can say is I pray to keep the Bluebird in my heart so I can help those who cannot see it. That's what my experience has taught me. So be kind out there because you just never know when that Bluebird wants to fly. You just never know.
Well, thank you for being vulnerable with
Oh,
our
it's the
bub.
truth, baby. It's truth. We all
Well,
go
you know,
through it. It's
listen,
truth.
water is a conductor. Water is
Amen
a
to that. Glory be
conductor.
to God. These
You
are the
know, we are
bluebirds, and
water.
I
We are
ain't
moving
sad.
water.
I am
We're
not
moving
sad by any
water.
means. I just know that there are so many people out there who will not get the blessing of Henry C. calling you and saying, "Are you okay?" You
Oh yeah, they
know,
will. Just reach out. Just reach out. I'm
there's
here.
one. There are 8 billion
Leave a
people.
comment below if you need to
Yes, there
talk.
are 8 billion people out there, and I'm assuming that we may not be able to reach all of them. And those who we can't reach, I hope you can reshare this message to let people know that the Bluebird is there. Happiness is there. It may not be the standard that society has set up for you, but you
Right.
must define how high and how far the Bluebird can go.
And it may not be in the places you expect it to be, or where you're
That's the
looking
truth.
for it,
That's
or where
it.
you're looking for it, or where society has told you that it is.
Yeah, that
Right?
exactly.
Over and over. Society meaning government, religion,
Yep. Yeah.
parents,
So
schools, education, telling you that this is how you find happiness. And let's wrap up by sharing the end of the film, right?
right.
Which is the future, where they come home empty-handed. They feel dejected. They feel like we couldn't find the fucking Bluebird
Right.
anywhere. It was elusive and it missed it. And what did they find when they got home? That the bird that they had been loving and
Story's up.
caring for the whole time in the cage at home had turned blue. That the
Yes.
Bluebird was right there, Dorothy.
Oh, the
If
whole
I ever go
time.
looking for my
No.
heart's desire again, I'll never look any further than my own backyard, because
Yeah,
if it
and
isn't
that's
there,
right.
I never really lost it to begin with. If it isn't there, I never lost it to begin with. It starts at home. And that could be your house, that could be your heart, that could be your soul, right? And what did they do? They decided to give the Bluebird to that sick girl, their Bluebird, their
Right.
coveted, beautiful Bluebird. They decided, and she is so overjoyed and happy, right? And she accidentally lets it go and it flies out the door.
Right. And then they tell you that poignant
She
that
doesn't think she's going to be happy again. She don't think she could be happy ever again.
right.
But you know what? Then the children turn to you, to the
Right.
audience, and they say, we already know where the bluebird lives.
It's in
Now
you.
you
It's
go
us.
find
It's in
your
you.
own.
It's in
You go
you.
find your own. If you find the bluebird, let it go and let other people find it. Right?
And that's something that I've learned today, or not even today, that have been reminded that share the bluebird. I share my bluebird.
Share the bluebird.
I share my bluebird anytime I can, and people notice it. And I've been blessed to be able to, like I do, like the way I sometimes share my bluebird is like I go when I'm waiting in a restaurant, picking up some food, going shopping, doing laundry, I start singing blue skies, nothing but
Smiling
blue
at me.
skies.
And do you know where else you share your bluebird?
Blue skies all the day long. Where am I? Where?
On your podcast, The
Of
Curious
course, I'm on the
Conversation. The Curious
podcast.
Conversation. QueenB's fabulous
Yes, and
Bluebird
I'm back.
podcast.
So, I took a little pause for the cause because the bluebird said it needed some water. So my
Yeah.
bluebird had to get some water. So it's refreshed, and I'm going to be doing a whole new, just, I'm always recreating myself and reinventing myself. So, look for that, a new voice, new picture, or more stable voice. And I'm bringing that to you as Henry C does in his podcast, the Lost Travels podcast, where we just bring everything that we've learned that allows us to see our own bluebird. We bring it to you. So check out our podcast and support us. And become a buff. Come on. Tell people about this, because I can tell you that we are definitely in a very special place, because I know a lot of people are not doing what we're doing, and we have found each other through the art of technology to talk about how the classic screenshot movies, the classic movies still have still share their viable lessons, if only we can search them out, if only we can take the time to sit and watch them. So make a space for you, your family, your friends, and sit down and have a conversation with us, and check out the movies that we're watching, because it really will bring a sort of viral technical family, right? Can we come family now? So take a chance, watch the movies, and become a subscriber. And thank you.
We are already family. We are all connected. It's already been proven that every human being is related from a common ancestor. So we are already family. Let's just find one another, and let's start. Conversation is the cure. So start with our comment box down in the undercarriage.
All right.
Subscribe, like, share, comment. We provide links to all these films. Many of these films I'm curating and I'm sharing with QueenB that she has never seen before. Some of them I've never seen before, but I've always wanted to. And so we experience those together through fresh eyes. And you can too. Go to the link in the undercarriage to the film. If you missed any of the ones, this is what, our 15th episode? 15 episodes. Congratulations, QueenB.
Yay,
So you can go back and you
congratulations,
can look at
Henry C.
15 films that we've already watched. Go watch them.
Right.
Go watch them. It's never too late to leave a comment.
Well, and join us on Mondays. We're doing our best to get it out on Mondays, sometimes Tuesdays, because things have been heating up. So as I part my ways, because I got things to do today. Got to get my internet running up. I got to get things happening. Look for the bluebird out there, and if you find it, make sure you share it. I'm QueenB Divine.
I'm Henry C. We'll see you next week.
Yes, we
And the movie will be in the undercarriage. Go look and see what's coming up next week.
Bluebird, something about bluebird. Woo, bluebirds all the day long.
Bye.